And break. Welcome to the what are you do you want me to start the show or not?
Did you say break? What is this, a huddle? God, all right. Try again.
Welcome to the late night edition. Kelly and Murray After Dark. It is dark here. So why not? Seems very fitting. It's like Pac-12 After Dark. You just never know what's going to be happening, what's going to be said. John Murray wrote the rundown because John Hoglund said, screw you, I'm done doing it. But he did send me the mailbag questions.
Why is John mad at me? Because I made fun of his rundown?
I'm not actually sure why he's mad at you, but probably for the same reason why I'm always mad at you. You're never on time.
Yeah.
You are, let's see.
Go ahead. That's all you got.
You don't contribute. I bought you a new microphone. You couldn't even go home during your lunch break and get it.
No, that's not true. I've been texting with my mom to see if it was delivered yet. It hasn't come yet. Remember, my mom's at my house.
Okay, yeah. Maybe.
My mom. So mom really likes your performance on the show.
She does. Wow.
She says that I need to like jazz up the clothes I wear. I guess I'm dressing too drab. So
I've kind of said that for a long time. It's kind of like the paint color in your kitchen. When I came over and I'm like, John, if you ever want to get a wife, we need to do something about this kitchen.
I'll get right on that. But the just too much drab olive colored clothing, I guess. Mom doesn't know that I'm very well read.
I was going to say you're a sportsbook director. What does she want you to dress in? Like, listen, there's only one man that has the best dressed award at the Westgate, and his name is Gordy. So,
well, I can't compete with Gordy. That's ridiculous. Who can compete with Gordy?
Fair enough.
Let's recap the weekend. I got a bone to pick with you about another show you were on.
I got a bone to pick.
But first, I want to hear how you did. The books did awesome. So you must have done good. You fade the public. So how'd you do?
I don't fade the public, but when the public does bad, I tend to do well. I've actually had a good last couple of weeks. Thank you very much. I actually was going to look back, but it's not purposeful. So I bet 2 games this week earlier, and guess what? Both of them moved against me. So it's like I'm not purposely betting against the public. If I wanted to bet against the public, I would just take the Raiders this week. Or I would take another really lopsided game like Kansas City.
Yep. Kansas City's big.
Yeah. Well, I would take the Broncos, but I'm not going to take the Raiders or the Broncos because they're hot garbage.
So we did great on Sunday. You know, we won really big on the Ravens game. We did great. The Bears crushed the Raiders. We did great.
7-0, Mr. 7-0 there on
Yeah, you know what? I got a bone to pick.
I got a bone to pick.
I wanted our social media guy.
What's with all your bones to pick? Like, why?
I got them all written down here. All the people I want to complain about.
Do you know how to work a 9 to 5? Have you seen that video on social media? It's really hard. And you're over here trying to pick bones.
That girl needs to find a husband. Louis D'Onofrio, my social media guy. I want him to take the clips of all 7 of my winners on Nesson and clip them together. And meanwhile, he's at the racetrack on Saturday. He's at Keeneland on Saturday, blowing all of his money that I won for him instead of doing his job. That's a bone. I got to pick that bone.
Well, I did just ask him. I said, hey, I'm going to be at the Falcons-Titans game. Like, we should do something with SuperBook. And he's like, yeah, I got to do the contest stuff. And I'm like, listen, I get it. I used to live in Vegas, and people would come down to the strip, and I'm like, yeah, I got all this stuff I have to do.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. If people, Nashville is Vegas. Like, I don't want to live there either.
Bone to pick with D'Onofrio, but I got a bigger bone to pick with you.
I got a bone to pick.
You, a couple weeks ago on the show, you said you didn't want to talk about Taylor Swift. And then I saw you do like a whole video for Outkick.
I think this might mean this relationship's a little more serious than we thought.
All about
They made me do one for Bud Light today too. Like, listen, this is the whole thing. I have a new employer. Well, I have lots of new employers.
Yes,
and they say, here, this is what we want you to talk about. Like,
yes,
I could give a fuck about Taylor Swift. Listen, here's what I wanted to say on video. Oh, look, Travis Kelce's banged 100 girls in this pit house in downtown Kansas City, and now his new girlfriend doesn't probably want to stay there. What a shocking development.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Travis Kelce because this is what I was going to ask. I was going to put this question to our listeners. Who is a bigger sellout, Kelly Stewart or Travis Kelce? Who, I don't know. I mean, Travis, I'm going to go with Kelce. Considering who he's taking money from, I'll say Kelce. If you disagree,
he's on every single commercial. Whoever the PR firm that he fired and then hired the new one, and he's just doing every single commercial. And then they also said, "Oh, by the way, you're gonna get a fake date Taylor Swift. Congrats!" Like, I'm so happy for him, man. Listen, he's like me. We're in the later parts of our career. You've just got to hit the pedal to the metal and stockpile that cash while you got it.
You're still a kid. And then I got one. I want to complain. Everybody complains about their bad beats. I'm still annoyed about losing Pitt on Saturday. Pitt +1 against Wake. What the fuck?
That was pretty pitiful.
Oh, God,
literally.
Man. I'm annoyed about that one. Survivor. You know that I was nervous when Geno Smith fumbled because Seattle did everything they could to keep Arizona in the game. I was texting with you. It's like, what are these guys doing? Just put these guys out of their misery. Seattle should have won that game by 30 points.
At least my dad doesn't watch the refs unless I'm there. So we were at his house and the whole time I can't believe you bet on Geno Smith. You watched him at West Virginia. Yada, yada. I'm like, Dad, I know, but last year Geno Smith was a lot better. Hear me out. It just because he hasn't been paying attention. All he does is remember Geno with the tarp from West Virginia. And that's, that's the most Geno Smith moment I've ever seen. But yes, that was there. I tried to do the reverse jinx. There was a lot of moments during that game where I was like, this sucks. This sucks really bad.
Here's what I want to talk to you about Survivor-wise. So you texted us. You said that somebody sold their entry for $8,000. So first of all, would you sell your entry, of which you have half, for $4,000? Would you do that? $4,000.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so I have 4 in the Vegas contest.
Okay.
And we pretty much used pretty similar ones. Like the first week, I couldn't convince Ariel and Pam to use the commies, so we used the Ravens.
Football team.
Yes, but pretty much they're in lockstep of being very, very similar.
Right.
So I've got 4 of those. I also have one that was a $750 buy-in through my buddies in Michigan, and it's down to
illegal.
42.
Oh.
And it's not $9 million, but it's a tenth of that.
Significant.
It's a good chunk of change.
Well, let's talk about.
So, I mean,
let's talk about.
Would I sell maybe one of my entries for $4,000 and then I'm free rolling with the other entries? Maybe.
Don't you think it'd be funny if you sold your half of ours, and then on the show, I was talking about who I was picking with my new partner, and then you were like openly rooting against us, because as soon as you sold, you'd want us to lose, right?
So yes. I don't know, because maybe it's not like, maybe you sell half of your entry, right, for $4,000, and then I still own 25%. You own 25%. There's a lot of ways to do this. It doesn't have to just be like true. That. And also, yes, I'm a sore loser. So if I didn't own any of it, but then the other three entries I have it all mapped out very similarly. Like, and then I put my case to each of my partners as I go along, and unfortunately, we keep getting similar results. And then you try to come in this week and you're like, oh, yeah, let's talk about using this team instead of them for Thanksgiving. And let's use this team. And I'm like, I don't really like road teams. And you give me every reason under the sun not to use the Chargers, which made me really happy, because I was like, thank God, not all of my entries are going to be on the Chargers. Maybe I can convince one other partner to not use the Chargers. And then, like, we have 2 and 2, plus then I've got the one in Michigan and a couple other really small ones. But then now all of a sudden you're just like all in on Brandon Staley on Sunday night. So now across the board, it's going to be the freaking Chargers, because the last time I pivoted and I tried to get Ariel and Pam on board with the Commanders, Pam was like, no, I like the Bears. They're going to win outright. Well, Chad and I used the Commanders, and we really haven't spoken since. And I kind of don't blame him.
I had the Commanders.
Because I kind of talked him into using it, because I didn't want to use the same across the board.
I understand why people didn't use Seattle on Sunday, because everybody was going to use Seattle on Sunday. And I understand that logic. But look at this. The number 2 pick was the Bills. The number 3 pick was the Bucks. The number 4 pick was the Rams. The number 6 pick was the 49ers. The number 7 pick was the Raiders. And the number 8 pick was the Saints. They all lost. The number 5 pick, you ask, Cleveland, who should have lost.
Should have lost.
Completely bailed out by the refs. They should have lost that game too. So you should have had numbers 2 through 8 all lose. So even though we used the obvious pick, it's just going to be hard to convince me we didn't do the right thing. We're going on to week 8. We've got a couple options this week. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. You want to talk about college football, the big games, and then what's the hottie threesome this week? Lead with the hottie threesome.
So I sent this text right before we went on live. And I said, I have
This
never
is recorded. This
okay.
is recorded.
So on Wednesday, usually by like 5 p.m. on Wednesday, I've got it down to like 4 or 5. Listen to this.
Okay.
Rice, Utah, UNLV, Arizona State, Cal, Kansas, North Texas. That's 8 dogs. I have a lot more work to do after this. So how dare you basically deprive our listeners of the hard work I should be doing on the parlay as opposed to waiting around on you for 3 extra hours.
2 extra hours.
Something like that.
I moved it back 2 hours. 2 hours.
Okay.
That. I'll run through some sharp stuff I saw. Kelly apparently is not offering anything. Is that what?
I just said. Okay, so if I had to pick, it's probably going to be Kansas. I think they can beat Oklahoma.
Yeah, you.
I really like Utah, even though it's really tough to win back-to-back games as, touchdown underdogs. I should have had them last week. Don't get me started. Rice, I really like a lot plus the points, but I really like Wisconsin plus the points too. Doesn't mean I think they can beat Ohio State. Cal, betting against USC is been really profitable this year. And can Cal win is the real question here. UNLV, I said last week the reason why I liked Colorado State was because I thought that this was kind of a look-ahead spot. Can UNLV beat the Dogs? Well, they haven't in like 5 or 6 seasons. So I got a lot more work to do. So it's not like I'm not contributing. I'll probably actually bet most of these dogs. So there.
Utah is one that we saw sharp money on. That's definitely – Utah definitely seeing some sharp money. You mentioned Cal. So we saw some wise guys on USC in this week against Cal. I saw a lot of wise guys on USC last week. I think we talked about that on last week's show.
Yeah, it might be your fault that I didn't bet Utah last week because you told me you saw wise guys on them. Just like the week before when you told me you saw wise guys on Mizzou and I bet against them, I was like, well, don't do that again, Kelly.
Yeah, but no, last week I told you that all the sharp guys were on Missouri and you played South Carolina because you were sucking up to D'Onofrio. Yeah. Yes, that happened. Watch the show. So
whatever.
they played.
There's just been multiple times that it's happened. Okay, I just whatever.
Here's a big one. They laid Notre Dame multiple times. They laid 18, 19, 20. Notre Dame plays Pitt. Apparently, I don't like Pitt. After what they did to me on Saturday, I'm still bitter towards Pitt. And they played James Madison and Kentucky +4 against Tennessee. Sweet Kelly will be in Tennessee this weekend, I believe, with Ariel
I will
Epstein.
be.
Is that correct?
I will. I consider Kentucky on Sunday when I was doing some of my work at my dad's during the refs. Mm-hmm. I looked at the +5. I blinked. I had the odds screen open. It was like 3.5. So I was like, well, that was fun. I guess I'm not going to play Kentucky.
Speaking of the refs, because we're gonna talk about the NFL, what is going on? So the social media platform X that was previously was called Twitter. I see all these people now talking about how the refs are controlling the game. They're ruining the games. They're making it a hard to watch product. No shit. That's been going on for like 10 years at least.
Oh, only 10? Only 10 years?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Longer than 10. We've been calling it ref ball for like a decade solid because, I mean, look at the end of that Cleveland-Indianapolis game. I didn't even have any action on that game. I was just watching it in my office. That was ridiculous. It's refs. It's a product that needs improving. Can we at least
agree on that? They make a lot of it about themselves. There's a lot of 50-50 calls. And I just don't think they call it consistent enough. I will say this, college, I have some frustrations as well, but I feel like college at least is a little bit more consistent on how they call things, right? Like, was it the Texas Tech game that one of the K-State players got knocked out for targeting? And my dad's like, that's not targeting. I'm like, no, Dad, that's definitely targeting. Like, I think at this point in time, I think we've all established, like, wait, we know what targeting is, right? And I still don't know what pass interference is in the NFL.
Nobody does. Nobody, because even if the ball is like thrown 10 yards out the back of the end zone, apparently they can still call pass.
Who was it last week? Was it one of the Dolphins players? Or I'm trying to think. It happened so many times. They were like mugging each other on the sideline, like grabbing jerseys, pushing off of each other, and then they called offensive pass interference, and you're like, what?
I don't know.
What
it's
about that made
tough.
it offensive versus not?
Picking winners in the NFL is really tough because the point spreads are usually pretty accurate, and these games are going to come down to one or two, very few plays that will determine the outcome of the game. And a lot of times that can involve a judgment call from somebody that is not wearing a helmet and shoulder pads. And that can be tricky. It's tough. It's tough to navigate the NFL. You know that. We talk about that all the time. That's why I don't really watch the games. I just watch the end of the games.
Oh, you just watched the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Well, what
there
else
was
is there? What else
I don't
is
know
there?
who it was, but there was a gambling ad somebody sent to me, or I'm sorry, like a Gambler's Anonymous ad, and it was a former NFL athlete, and he said that it was like 41% of NFL games get decided in the fourth quarter or something was the ad, and it's like, don't bet more than you can, like all the obvious things that we know and I've preached about for years. But I was shocked. I was like, 41%. What is this? The NBA?
The NFL games, they usually come down to the last few minutes. Although I will say last Sunday was a little unique because we really needed Baltimore and we really needed Chicago in the morning, and we got both of them kind of right away.
Yeah, pretty easy.
It was pretty obvious we were going to get those two. Now, the last one we needed was a Buffalo to lose to New England. New England outright was huge for us. That one did come down to the end. So I'd
like to thank Ariel Epstein for that one. So we were because we're in a group chat. Like, I had no desire to bet the Patriots. Are you kidding me? Why would I want to bet the Patriots? And so you know how like the apps will give you, if you have your notifications on, which of course I don't, nor do I have half these apps downloaded on my phone. But I think it was like the Bleacher Report app came up when it was like Bill Belichick, multi-year, everybody had been telling me out of Boston, like, nope, this is Bill's last year. They're going to move forward, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, just, I trust people in that realm. And sure enough, came across and I was like, Bill just got a contract extension playing against a divisional rival. And I looked and the line had come down to 7.5. And I said, fuck it. I don't have time for this, because it was like 45 seconds until kickoff. So I just logged in really quick and it said, okay, plus 280 and just fucking bet it.
That just like that?
Yeah. I was like, fuck it.
I thought we just talked about people that have gambling problems.
No, that's not a gambling problem.
Are you endorsing the other side?
No, I was endorsing the fact that the line came down. Sharp money was on the Pats. Bill just got a contract extension. Bills have already lost to another divisional rival on the road in the Jets. I just was being obnoxious, and it worked.
The Patriots were not going to fire Bill Belichick. Like, everyone's like, oh, they should move on from Bill Belichick. Move on to who? Have you seen the other coaches on the sidelines these NFL games? Move on to who exactly?
Jobs. And that's what scares me.
But you know what?
If we take Brandon Staley and he loses to the Browns, I'm almost sure he's going to get fired. So, like, that'll be like our consolation prize.
Let's talk about that. I want to talk about, why are there people out there? I see people out there that still defend Brandon Staley just because he's aggressive on fourth downs. Like, is that the only metric by which we judge a coach now? Yes, I understand that Brandon Staley is very aggressive on fourth downs.
I think he broke Justin Herbert too.
He's a lousy coach. He's a lousy NFL head coach. Just because he's aggressive on fourth downs, that cancels out everything else this guy does. I don't agree with that.
Brandon. We'll just give him a new nickname.
I'm going to run through some sharp stuff I saw this week. This is week 8 in the NFL. Wait.
That's crazy.
Carolina plus 3.5 against Houston. Carolina yet to cover the point spread this season. They're struggling. New England, this number's come down. They took 10. New England at Miami. I don't know how I feel about that one, Kelly, because it seems like Miami just destroys bad teams.
They do.
And then they
go and they lose on the road to a team that's as good as them on a neutral field, or maybe a little bit better.
Kelly and I talked about this one on. No, I agree. You're right. You're right. But we talked about this one. Dallas, they led 5.5. They moved us up to 6.5 on the Cowboys. So I threw out the idea to Kelly of maybe using Dallas and Survivor because I respect the group that played Dallas, and then we could root for one of these other big favorites to lose. But it's hard to get to Dallas. I mean, even though it seems like we've used nothing but chalk the whole way, which we kind of have, we have 3 teams that are more than an 8-point favorite available to us this week. We have a lot of options.
I actually wanted to look and see what I have the line as of Dallas for the Super Bowl. Right now, I have Dallas for the Super Bowl as 9-point favorites. So I think as much as they will mess around and lose on Thanksgiving, and they have before,
yes,
I think we still have to kind of save them, unfortunately.
What do you mean Dallas for the Super Bowl? What does that mean?
Or I'm sorry, for Thanksgiving. Sorry, Dallas for Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving, and then I have Detroit as a 7-point favorite over Green Bay, but that's only because they didn't look so good last week. You gotta downgrade them half a point.
So there's 2 reasons why right now I'm leaning my hand to the Chargers. And number one is, well, there's 3. Number one is Detroit is the most lopsided ticket count for us at the SuperBook this week by like a lot. It's not even particularly close. It's much wider even than Kansas City at Denver.
Did you see the article that came out about the Raiders? I mean, it sounds like there's trouble in paradise.
Yeah. No, I know. And that's the way the game's being bet. The other thing is, Kelly just touched on it. They play on Thanksgiving. Detroit does on Thanksgiving, excuse me. So that gives us another option that we could save for Thanksgiving if we don't use them this week. And then the third thing is just looking at their schedules going forward. Detroit still has 2 games against Chicago, and there just doesn't seem to be a lot of other chances to use the Chargers. That's going to be a tough walk.
The only other spot I would consider using the Chargers, which I hate divisional games, would be Week 14 versus Denver. And
yes, that makes sense. That game, like we talked about, like this is going to be mostly Bears fans in San Diego or in LA this week. It's probably going to be mostly Broncos fans in LA too.
Probably, but wouldn't you rather use Dallas if we know, like, let's say, like, we're like, okay, we don't really trust Dallas against Washington on Thanksgiving because of his history, right?
Yeah.
The 2 weeks leading up to that, they play the New York Giants and they're at Carolina. Not saying that I want to lay on the road, but are they really going to be looking ahead in maybe like a divisional sandwich and lay an egg at Carolina?
It's tough to use Dallas this week, even though I mentioned I saw a sharp group on Dallas. They should win the game against the Rams. They are off their bye week, but there's just better options for me and Kelly. The other team I saw getting sharp money this week is Seattle. So that's an interesting game because Kelly and I used Seattle last week in Survivor. And, I believe Cleveland next week hosts Arizona. So Cleveland will be the big Survivor pick in Week 9 for those that survive this week. Except I'm hearing some chirping that maybe Kyler Murray will play for the Cardinals in Week 9.
That could be very interesting.
But if you're Arizona, are you seriously going to bring this kid back and have him go up against Cleveland as his first game?
Did you hear about his insurance policy that he has? If he gets hurt again, they have to pay him somebody sent it to me and this was a couple of weeks ago because when I was mapping out, they're like, how do you know Kyler Murray's not going to be back for Seattle, which he was practicing last week. That was a factual thing. Mm-hmm. But I was like, then getting a little nervous, like, wait, is there a chance he would play at Seattle? It's a divisional game. Like, nope, no worries. But there is a clause in his contract that if he gets hurt again, they owe him X number of dollars.
Oh, well, then they shouldn't play him against Cleveland because Cleveland's
one of the better defenses. Yeah,
it's very good defense.
So maybe they will, maybe they won't. But
Cleveland's defense manhandled the 49ers 2 weeks ago, made Brock Purdy look bad in that game. What do you like? What's your best bet? You should have won your best bet by 30 points last week, KV.
I should have, but instead I had to sweat it and my teasers even. So my best bet is a little wonky because it's going to be Will Levis. He's going to be the starter. We'll probably see Malik as well. But this is not a play on the Titans to play against the Falcons. So hear me out at least on that front. because everybody's gonna be like, what the hell are you thinking?
Hear me out. This is your best bet because you're going to the game.
Yeah, I'm going to the game, but I'm also like, why on earth are the Atlanta Falcons a 3.5-point favorite here? Make it make sense. And nobody can make it make sense other than banged up Brian Tannehill isn't playing. That doesn't make any sense. You have a 2-4 Titans team who I do love, Mike Vrabel, who historically plays better as a dog, particularly at home. Now, this team is not tanking just because they're 2-4. Like, I know that they traded Kevin, I forgot to say his last name, Baird or whatever, to the Eagles.
He was traded to Philadelphia. Yep.
Right. And then there's like rumblings that they're going to trade Derrick Henry. I don't know. Atlanta 1-8 straight up, 3-6 against the spread in their last 9 road games. Desmond Ridder had 3 fumbles last week in Tampa. Back-to-back road games is kind of one of those fade spots situationally that you want to bet against a team. Am I happy that it could be Malik Willis or Will Levis? Not exactly, but I don't think there's much of a drop-off here.
Desmond Ridder was awful in that game. Atlanta's another team. They should have beat Tampa Bay by multiple touchdowns. They kept fumbling the ball inside the 1-yard line. They should have won that game very easily.
They're just not that good.
Here's a reason.
Good. They let Baker Mayfield. First of all, here I am on bettor doing all these prop bets, and I'm like, Baker Mayfield, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are mid. I do this whole video. Atlanta has not given up that many passing yards to like 3 quarterbacks combined this season, and they let Baker Mayfield go off. And of course, I went back and forth between taking his underpassing yards or him throwing an interception. And of course, he threw an interception because it's Baker Mayfield. But they made Baker Mayfield look good. I don't know about think that.
Baker Mayfield went off. What did the Bucs have? Like 13 points in that game? He went off?
Yeah, but he had 290 passing yards.
See, I don't play fantasy. I don't know stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I don't play fantasy either, but here I am trying, and I'm looking like a jackass because, of course, I like the Falcons, and that doesn't always correlate, okay? And I think my fantasy team is, like, decimated because we have no running back and haven't for, like, 6 weeks.
Do you want me to do a special boost? Do you want me to do a special boost to the SuperBook in Tennessee on the Titans for you, get you to do a video, get you out there, kid? You know, get your face out there.
Yeah, but then Louis actually has to come down there and do his job, and I don't think he wants to do that. He'd probably rather go to Keeneland.
Then Offrio's probably going to be at a racetrack or something. Well, this guy's not get the life of Riley.
He's like 24 and is like, I'm not going down to Broadway. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, I would be on Broadway every night. Hello, tourist girls, bachelorette party, capital of America. If I was a 24-year-old male full of piss and vinegar, you can bet where I'd be every single night. Just saying.
We're going to get in trouble with this topic. Let's go to the mailbag.
Why? Why would we get in trouble with this topic?
I don't know.
I literally, never mind. I started off the show talking about why Travis Kelce had to sell his penthouse. Vince in PGH on X says, what do you make the Nagano Furry matchup? Furry. If offered at Tyson Fury. I can read. If offered at the SuperBook, what is the expected handle compared to big boxing matches featuring 2 boxers?
I don't like this.
You mean as opposed to like UFC fighters or like the Paul brothers or?
No, I'd rather watch 2 boxers box. Like, I want to see Tyson Fury fight Usyk, which they say is going to be the next fight. What do I make of it? We do have it up. A few of the states have allowed us to book this fight. We'll actually do good business on it because these guys are such big names. Fury is such a big superstar. Nagano's a big star too. So it'll actually be a bigger handle than almost every fight we take this year in boxing, other than like the tentpole, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia, those kind of fights. It'll do more volume than all the fights we do this year, but it is stupid. Get back in there, Tyson Fury. Fight Usyk. That's what the people want.
All right. Joseph the 4th on Instagram says, do you auto bet a reverse line move in the NFL? If not, what would be the reason not to bet it? Personally, no. I don't auto bet anything. It's the NFL. No. But did I used to feel good? Like when I had one of these, when I laid like 6 or I took 6 and it closed 3.5, like I did with the Colts week 1. Yeah, I love that reverse line. It makes me feel so good. And then this year happened and it made me hate every single time that the line moved against me.
You're telling me that you don't make an auto bet when Sam Panayotovich tweets the bartender plays? You don't auto bet against those?
No.
Do you? And you're telling me you don't auto bet my Nesson?
Pam and I in the Super Contest had the Lions because she loved the Lions, even though I knew it was the wrong side. What am I supposed to do? I didn't argue.
You don't auto bet my. Answer the question. You don't auto bet my Nesson plays? There's 7.
What did I tweet? What did I say in my tweet?
I don't know. What'd you say? X.
Bears and a teaser. Bears and a teaser.
Oh, okay.
I had 22 teasers last week. 22. I have like 27 this week. Really good. I only lost. Actually, probably should have just bet the money line on most of these. But I only lost. I had the Dolphins and 2 teasers late Sunday night, so worked out really well.
What kind of juice are you laying on those teasers?
110. I'll send you the screenshot because nobody's gonna believe me.
No. You're good to go. If you're doing it minus 110, you're smart. You're a smart girl.
That's the only way. Even anymore, like, yeah, I'll tell you off air. TS Plant on IG says, if someone picked a winner 7 weeks in a row, do you act like a pitcher in a perfect game? Shh.
Right.
Basically, so I'm in trouble for jinxing you. Sorry.
No, but we didn't. Oh, is he talking about me on Nesson or you and Survivor? What? I don't care about. We can talk about my picks. I don't believe in that kind of stuff.
JC Wilcox 23 on X says, overwhelmingly massive fan here. Did you leave us 5 stars? Anyway, what are the following odds on to happen first on 3-way action? John and Kelly go out in Survivor. Kelly to hit the hottie threesome. Sam Man joins the pod. Please credit when this bet is official at Westgate. Thanks.
Yeah.
Can't do that in the state of
question.
Nevada. Wilcox, you can't. They won't let you. They don't let you have fun ever.
Well, the most likely thing is Sandman to join the pod, because at any moment we could just forward him the link and he could just jump into the show.
No,
right?
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not how that works. I couldn't just email him the link and he could just be on the show. Yeah. Right.
Sure.
So I mean that. So
yeah, we don't even have a mic for you. How are we going to get a mic for Sandman?
Well, he doesn't really. He's in Wichita, Kansas. They don't have microphones.
Did he move back to the top?
Yeah, he's in the tall right now. Yeah. Actually, you know what? That does change the odds a little bit because he might not survive Wichita and therefore be unable to join the podcast. So maybe the most likely thing is that we lose in Survivor. Touche.
No.
Survivor is most likely.
The longest odds is me hitting this parlay. Like, I've never hit one this late in the season. Yeah.
Well, it has to be.
It's
it's hard to hit a 3-team parlay.
50-1 this weekend. So mathematically.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Us losing in Survivor, Sandman dying in Wichita, Kelly hitting the hottie threesome. That's my order.
All right. Barnes Law on X, friend of the show. We had him on the show. That was a great one. Learned a lot. How do the books learn to spot a sharp bettor? And hypothetically speaking, how would one avoid being spotted?
That's a really good question. So one thing that groups will do in order to convince you that they're not smart is they'll start off by betting parlays. They'll bet obvious, like the big NFL game of the week, whatever's the big, like what are the obvious sides this week in the NFL? Chiefs, Lions. If a new customer came in and just bet $10,000 on the Chiefs and the Lions, we would think, oh, this guy, a great customer. It's a good customer to have around here. Or if a new customer came in and started doing parlays and teasers, I'd be like, great, give him bigger limits. He's a great player for us. That's a good way to hide yourself from the books. How do we know somebody's sharp? I mean, it's really obvious. They're most sharps don't even have an opinion. They're just chasing the steam on the screen. That's how they bet. It is what it is. That's the truth.
It's so true.
And then there's other players. There's other players that really are sharp, and you want to look at how they do against the closing number. That's the main thing you want to look at. Every time that guy makes a bet, or gal, or they make a bet.
How many female runners do you guys have coming into the Westgate? You guys have a handful of them?
I don't know what a
runner is. I know
is.
Billy used to have a female runner, and no, it was not me.
I've never heard of the term runner. I don't know what you're referring to. If they're always beating the closing line, that's somebody that is a sharp. And if all they're doing is chasing steam, that's somebody that's probably going to get their limits lowered. Get an opinion. Next question.
All right, 3Jack H3131 on X says, great show in context each week. 3 questions. How did John Murray not gouge his eyes out watching soccer? Kelly, did I hear you sold your proxy service? Will there become a time when the proxy service becomes irrelevant? Yes, let's go backwards. At a time, I did own a proxy service. John Murray said, you guys are going to be irrelevant. That was like 6 years ago, and it's still trucking right along.
No. That was like 2 years ago.
Okay, maybe it was like 6 years ago. And then 2 years ago, you said, anyway, when the whole ESPN, I don't want to call it a debacle, but I guess debacle happened, I had already sold my portion of the proxy service because they said per their regulations, they didn't know how they felt about me owning that business, even though it's perfectly legal in the state of Nevada. So I said, okay, you guys are going to pay me all this money. I don't care. Like Brett can have the whole proxy service. So that was actually 3 years ago. Brett did take on some new partners. He gets that question all the time. So that's really all I can report. Now I'm just a customer.
I don't like this guy.
Your eyes out soccer.
Yeah, I don't like at Jake H3131 on X. I don't think, first of all, I don't think anyone should be allowed to ask 3 questions. I mean, we should cap that at
well, the other
2.
guy asked 3 questions.
I think 1 is better. Why would I gouge my eyes out watching soccer? Soccer is the beautiful game. Soccer
I don't know. I have to do a soccer video at noon tomorrow, and I'm like, if you don't send me all the cliff notes, this is going to be an unmitigated disaster.
I love soccer. I love Liverpool Football Club.
AT Ross 14 on X says, big fan, no question. Just want to know John's thoughts on Jim Harbaugh stealing signs.
This is a bullshit question.
Why? Tell me, do you think John Harbaugh is a cheater?
No, first of all, it's Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, yeah, Jim Harbaugh. Sorry. I love Jim Harbaugh. Okay?
Andy Ross knows that I love Jim Harbaugh. He's given me shit. He used to work with us back in the day. I like Jim Harbaugh. Me and my brother, we call him Coach Harbaugh. We really look up to him. We think he's funny. And everyone steals signs from one another.
Cheater is the question.
Matt Rule said it this week.
Listen, if you asked me if I thought Bill Self was a cheater, I would say yes, he's a cheater. Just yes or no. Is Jim Harbaugh a cheater?
Next question.
There is no more questions. This is the last question. I just got, our producers just said we needed to wrap. So I was going to wrap, but I feel like I need an answer from you. Since when are you so PC? Remember when we brought back the show, you said, oh, I'm going to just say whatever I want and I don't want to have, I want to have a long leash. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And now here we are, and you're not answering. Is Harbaugh a cheater? Gotcha.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think he is. I love Coach. Keep it up, Coach. Go blue.
With a straight face. Or make eye contact.
So we're not doing the last question?
No, I was told to wrap after this. Do you want me to ask the last question? I can ask it. Here we go.
All
right. Brett _Miller 92 on X says, how do you handicap a game when a QB skill set is unknown? For example, Texas is playing Malik Murphy versus BYU. First career start for the injured Quinn Ewers. How does a book know what a QB is worth versus what Kelly thinks a QB is worth? This is really hard when you don't know who the backup is, right? Like I remember one Thanksgiving, the Lions were like on their 3rd string backup, and I sent out a text, and he's like, he's a 3.5 point drop off, but the market moved 6 points. Lions almost won the game outright. And that was because I hadn't even heard of this quarterback since he played at like Eastern Michigan University or something. So to answer this, I don't have how much Malik Murphy is as a drop off because I don't utilize those numbers. Do I probably know somebody that does? Sure. But how does a book do it?
Well, it's much harder in college because in the NFL, we basically know who every backup quarterback is. There are rare exceptions, and you made a great example there, that Thanksgiving game with the Lions a few years ago. But for the most part, we know all the quarterbacks in the NFL, so we got a pretty good idea what to do. In college, the rough rule of thumb would be about 6.5 to 7 points when they go to the backup quarterback. But in this case, Malik Murphy, and then the other backup quarterback for Texas is Arch Manning. And both of these guys are pretty well known. The Texas quarterback battle was very closely watched in the spring. So we got a pretty good idea of who these guys are. So this is a unique scenario where very rarely would we know the 1, 2, and 3 quarterbacks on a college roster. Texas this season is probably the only team I could tell you all 3 of their quarterbacks. We'll make an adjustment, but we don't want to overreact because Murphy and Manning, they could be studs too.
They probably are. They probably are. But I can tell you, I don't want it to be Quinn Ewers the following weekend. I'd much rather see it be Arch Manning. That's just a personal opinion.
Well, of course. He's a freshman. He hasn't played yet. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
And Quinn Ewers was K-State sucks.
Quinn Ewers is pretty good.
He's okay. Anyway. All right. That was the last question. You are off the hook. You are done. 52 minutes after the starting point. You're very welcome.
Don't forget the World Series starts Friday.
Who's even playing in it? I saw Philadelphia fans losing their minds.
It just breaks my heart that the Phillies are out. It's so sad.
Why?
But, I'll talk to you next week.
I thought you were so excited for all those former Nationals players.
Screw those guys.
You loved them. They were like on your team. They won you a World Series.
Trey Turner won us a World Series. Bryce Harper did not. That is not true.
Touche. Fair point. Correct. All right. Well, I'll be cheering for the D-backs because why not? I love a good underdog story. John Murray, who does the book need?
We need the D-backs. We've got pretty big futures liability on Texas. We would have liked to see Houston against Arizona. But you can't have it all in life.
That surprises me.
We did get Philly out of there, but we do need Arizona. We're definitely rooting for the Diamondbacks. World Series starts Friday night. Look out. Might even do a special odd boost in Arizona.
You love those odd boosts. It just like, come on in, guys. The water's warm. It's all nice and boosted for you. It is the biggest jinx on the planet. Stop
generous guy.
Parlays.
I'm a generous guy.
My Sunday one in Tennessee better not be boosted. The end. Let's wrap.
We'll see.
John Murray.